What's up, guys? Bane Games. We're gonna do some more code. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. I want to get this. There's a few things I want to try to get going. I want to get an idle game kind of cooking. So let me get a couple things going here. Fix some of my windows. That looks good. Cool. So yeah, I come across a lot of web-based idle games. I really like the whole incremental aspect of it. So I want to try to take my hand and attempt to play a little bit more with the idle games, to understand a little bit more what it's actually doing and how they work. What can we do to make them better, that kind of thing. So I'm gonna attempt it. So a few things that I know to understand, per se, how this works is it basically always has to do with it's pretty much heavy front end. So there's this concept of a player, right? There's a concept of the resources. There's a concept of upgrades. There's a concept of questing, jobs, whatever you want to call it. So pretty much the way that it works. So what we can do is let's actually build a to-do. I'll just build a quick little to-do. So if we think about how this works, there's the concept of the player mechanic. Player mechanic, yeah, that works. So this houses game data and what I like to call the current state of things. Then there's the game mechanic. I won't go that far. Let's just start with the player one. So if I want to make current state, so let's just say player. Var player. Can I get away? I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. Yeah, I can probably do. Yeah, I can do that. That works. So I'm gonna do player, boom. So I'm gonna assign the player some basic starting things. So one of the things is a to-do for load data, for load a saved game if exists, which we're not gonna do. So we're gonna leave that alone. So otherwise, it's gonna basically be if there's a saved game, load it. Otherwise, start from scratch. So if we think about starting from scratch, there's some basic information that we're going to want to have. Like, we need to have the concept of what our idle game actually is, but more importantly, we need to actually set some things up. So for example, let's say we'll just do some basic dialogue stuff. So we'll say player.name is going to be equal to window.dialog. What is your name? It's not window.dialog. I forgot what it's called. Why am I not remembering what this is? It's not just called dialogue. Why do I not remember what this is? Wow. Prompt. Sheesh. So window.prompt might be something like that. Cool. So the way we can kind of work on this now is, so we're gonna have this player name is gonna be a prompt, which is fine. So maybe one of the other things we might want to do, if we're not loading the to-do, like if we're not saying, oh hey, yeah, we're not gonna do anything, we need to actually get it rendered on the screen regardless. So we want to be able to put it on here. So let's first get a title of the game. So this will be static, like this doesn't need to be something that is dynamic, so we'll just do Bane Games, Idle Quest, I don't know, whatever. Idle Smasher. Why not? Okay, so for right now, I'm gonna just, instead of making this a question, we're just gonna statically set this to something. So Bane Games, that's gonna be our player name. So one of the things we might want to do is do something like underneath this is do something like playing as, so we'll do a span, and we'll give this an ID, player name. So over here in our game file, we can just say document dot ready. We're gonna load everything up, so we're gonna do the player name dot text of player dot name. Cool. So let me get a new window up over here for you. Perfect. Cool. So now we can switch between that. We can see. Does that look good on the stream? Cool. It does. Let's change the background on this real quick, just because that's. Oh, am I not including style? No, I am. There we go. Let's go. All right, cool. Let's make it a little darker. I like working with dark, so that works out. All right, so we have this idea of the player, which is fine. A couple of the things that we might want to do is also understand what are our resources going to be, right? So we need to have some type of resource, and we need to be able to automatically, for now we're going to click them, but we need to be able to automatically gather those resources as well. So one of the things we might want to do is institute something like the 3 types of resources. So if we have our player object, which is going to be here, we might have our resources object, which might be here. So this is part of that whole the saving. We're going to load the save game. So resource count, for example, is going to be something that is not part of this. Technically, we could do everything in this player thing. We'll get rid of that for right now. So let's just actually do some resources here. So one of the things we want to do is understand what our resource is going to be. I want this to be themed based on like the elements. So like I want to basically build particles and then push them together to make new elements and get further and further along. So it makes sense that we're going to have like protons, neutrons, and electrons or something like that. And then maybe that'll take way to like quarks down the road, but it's going to basically start with like the evolution of the particle. I think. Yeah, I like that idea, the evolution of the particle. So let's do a little bit of research real quick. Evolution of the atom structure. Atomic structure timeline. Yay. Where's the picture? I like the picture. Is it this one? Yeah. So we start with just this. Dalton. Timothy, I think it's Timothy Dalton? It's been a while. J.J. Thompson, Bowles, yeah. John Dalton. Damn. Why did I think Timothy Dalton? I don't know. All right, so we started with this idea of the model of the atom is just it's a particle. So John Dalton said, hey, it's a particle. Thomas and Plum Pudding is like, yeah, it's a particle, but there's negative and positive charged. And then Rutherford basically says the positive charges are in the middle and negatives surrounding it. Bohr's turned it into more of a planetary aspect where atoms move up and down. Then the current, well, this isn't really current, but this is current as of a little while ago, of protons and neutrons in the center with electron clouds of where electrons could be. But that's actually even gone one more step from there. And we actually get now, I guess that is kind of the modern orbital. But as far as what actually makes up the atom, we also got that further now into like quarks. But we can actually start with this. This actually works pretty good. Yeah. Not that one. This one. Yeah, this actually works pretty good. So we'll actually start with this. So we kind of want to refine our thing. So what we'll do, we'll change this to Bane Games Atom Smasher. No need to do that. We'll just do Atom Smasher. So we're going to go ahead and turn this into Atom Smasher playing as Bane Games, which is cool. We're going to want to add a lot of functionality into this. Like, if I want to build particles, what does that actually mean, right? Like, what am I actually trying to do? I want to just click something and collect particles. Is that literally all I need to do? If so, then okay, let's just do that then. So we need to just start with what we have. So our base currency, right, is basically going to be what the particle name is, right? So in this case, this is an atom. The very first thing we want to be able to grab is just an atom. So we're going to collect atoms, right? So in order to collect an atom, one of the things we might want to do, let's just do a div for right now. Let's just put a button in here. Collect atom. Value. Collect atom. Boom. So I have this button that says collect atom, which is cool. So the other thing we might want to do is we'll put an actual label next to this, and we'll say we'll put a span class. Actually, let's do an ID. Atom count. So right now, obviously there's nothing there. We click the button, nothing happens. So let's go ahead and get our little click function working. So on click. Do I want to do off? We'll just do click. So there's actually a few ways you can actually write this. You can do it as an off on. You can do it as an on click function. You can do it on change. You can do a bunch of different things with this. I prefer the click or the turning it or unbinding everything off and then setting it to on. So again, to start, player dot atom count is going to be equal to 0. When I click it, I'm going to say player dot atom count plus plus, and then atom count dot text is going to be equal to player dot atom count. So now we click this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we have atoms. We're collecting atoms. The mechanic of clicking to gather things is done. It is currently working, which is cool. So one of the things that we might want to look at, let me look at something real quick here. Right. Okay, that's fine. Cool. So we have this idea of collecting an atom. So we can collect as many atoms as we want now. So one of the things that we might want to look at is understanding what's beyond the atom, right? Like one of the things we're going to want to do is part of the upgrades, right? So if when we upgrade, some of the upgrades we might want to do is to say, oh, hey, yeah, we can upgrade the amount of atoms we can collect on this. Or, oh, hey, yeah, we're going to add something else into this to say, hey, this means we can show something else. So we're going to kind of have different things we're going to unlock as we do this, right? So we're going to have different buttons. So we could work on the logic to show and hide and do all this other stuff, but right now I'm not really that interested in it. I just want to get the whole idea of, hey, can we just build something, right? Like just get something going. So let's look at the upgrade path. So if I can click on atoms, right, and collect my atoms, one of the research things I might want to do is say something like, oh, hey, I want to understand the Dalton thing, right? So one of the things, and again, we're not going to actually get too crazy into the science behind it, but just the evolution path of it, right? So we have this atom, we're at the Dalton model. I want to be able to collect these atoms automatically, right? That might be something that's useful, is to collect them automatically. So in order to collect an atom automatically, maybe we'll do atom smasher count 0. I don't want to do an atom smasher. We'll just say auto atom. So auto atom count is 0, which is cool. Now, however, I also want to make sure that we understand the cost of this things. All right, this is just a single layer object, so it's just player, name, atom count, auto atom count, blah. There's nothing that's actually describing what this is. Like, how much does this cost? So if I added another button, let's just put another one over here. We'll say buy auto atom. So if I go over here, and if I add a click function onto this, if I say I want to buy an auto atom, right, there's a couple things I could do. I could say something like, oh, well, just increment auto atom counter to 1, and then we'll just start adding something. There's no idle portion of this yet. Like, there's no window function that's running this question or running this thing every second. So we actually want to add that. So let's just do, we also want to do a game data object for like the game global. And one of the things that we might want to put in the game object is game base intervals equal to 1000. Cool. After the script, so after the function is all done, one of the things we want to do is do a Windows set interval. Which I guess we could just do it like this, but I also need to do comma game dot base interval. And we're gonna run the function, and the function's gonna be called update, I guess. Yeah, I guess update basically works. So every 1,000 seconds, we're gonna run a function called update. So let's just kind of do that. So function update console.log update, just for posterity's sake. Let's inspect this. Update, update, update. So that's running every second, which is good. So that's good. So the whole point of this is we need to aggregate all of our generations. Like, this is gonna, let's say every time I buy one of these, it's going to increment my atom count by 0.2 a second, right? Or 0.2 per base interval. So in this case, my base interval is going to be considered 1,000, which is 1,000 milliseconds, or 1 second. Basically 1 second of the game. So one of the things we can do, when I click this, I need to first make sure that the cost of the auto atom collector thing, per se, is something that I have. For right now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just actually going to increment it, and I'm going to just, in my update function, we'll just actually build the structure to do this. So what we're going to do, we'll go ahead and say auto atom count plus plus, boom. And then we'll also say game dot, I'm trying to think the right incrementer. Player, maybe? Yeah, probably player. Player dot, I want a new property. Auto add intervals equal to 0, boom. Now what we're gonna do is say player auto add interval plus equals 0.2. So in this game, in this update function, all I'm gonna literally do is say player dot atom count plus equals player dot auto add interval, boom. So now if I buy some atoms, and if I buy an atom here, this is actually incrementing, but it's not actually refreshing. So if I collect an atom, we're gonna see that that's now upping to 8.2. Buy another one, it's 9.9. 9.8. So we got some truncation stuff that's happening here. So let's actually get some math going in here. So we'll say player item count plus equals math dot round. I think I want to do it like that. No, that's gonna round it to whole numbers. I don't want that. I actually want it to be, what's that? I'm trying to remember what the function is for it. Oh yeah, it is the decimals. I actually want to say to 2. Oh, why not? Oh, because it's not math round. That's right. It's the 2 fixed function is what I need. So what I need to do is say round to at most 2 decimal places. Oh, yeah. Alright, well, whatever. So we're gonna say player dot auto add interval math round num times 1. Why is it doing that? I kind of feel like I can just make a better function. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a better function. I'll just do this. For right now, we'll just do 2 fixed. Oh, that broke it. Why did that break it? Unexpected identifier. Shoink. Yeah, that's wrong. Let's say parse. Let's try that. Nope. Alright, back up. Don't care. I'm just gonna stick with the crappy, crazy big number for right now. Alright, so one of the other things that we do need to see happen. Where did it go? Huh, it's not there anymore. My update function is no longer running, right? Is it running still? It's not running. Why is it not running? So we'll just run that again. Put a console in there to make sure that that's actually running. So we have every second that's running, which is cool. Boom, we click it, it's running. And then that's not updating. Why are you not updating? Math.round. Oh, that's right, because I said round. I don't want a round. All right, cool. So now we're back to the crazy long number. There we go. That's weird. It's not giving me the 0.777. Oh, there we go. All right, cool. So we're getting somewhere. We have our number actually working now, which is fine. But we have this auto incrementing thing working. The screen is not refreshing, right? So we actually need to refresh the values. So right now we have this happening here, but we also probably want to put some value refresh on side of the display side. So I'm just right now, because it's a small application, I'm just going to put it built right into that. So if I buy an auto atom, it's going to automatically do that for me, right? So which is fine. So one of the things I want to do is get it set up so if I don't have enough atoms to start with currency-wise, it's going to reject it. The problem is right now I can't do that accurately without knowing how much the cost is, right? So one thing I could do, let's say if I wanted to split this apart, so we'll say this is our currency, which we'll leave alone. So one of the things I could say is that this is currency. Then down here I could say something like first upgrade available. Auto atom that, which is the auto add interval. This is something separate. This is currency related as well. First upgrade available, auto atom count. So one of the things I could do is say auto atom base cost is equal to 10. We'll say that. One of the things that you could actually do is do everything linearly and just say, yeah, first upgrade available, auto atom count is this, auto base cost is this, and then on buy, change it. So we're gonna actually structure this linearly for right now, and then we'll understand how to do this better. We'll rewrite this and make it better. So again, we're just trying to get proof of concept down so that we can understand it, and then we can go back through and rewrite it. So let's Let me actually do... debating on that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So we have our base cost is 10. So right now when we click the buy atom, we're not checking the cost to see if it's actually going to give us a number. So we actually want to check that real quick. So we're going to say if player dot atom count is greater than or equal to auto atom base cost, meaning we have enough money. We're going to go ahead and increment the atom count. We're going to go ahead and add to our auto increment level. We also need to player.atom count minus equal auto atom base cost. And then we also need to increase the base cost. Auto atom base cost times equals I don't want to increase it a lot every single time, so we'll say 5% for right now. So this does a lot already. Like, this is actually doing a lot of things for us. So on update, I don't want to, I guess we could just debug the player object, but that's fine. So if we ran this now, if I say player, right, I get this thing, and we see auto atom base cost is currently set to 10. So if I click this and hit player, I still have no count, like it's still not letting me do it. So let's get enough to buy it real quick. So we're gonna buy 10, we're gonna buy the auto atom. Now we see that went down to 0, which is good. It is now currently incrementing. And if we check our player, we see the base cost has gone up by half a unit, which is good. And we see that we own 1 atom. So let's go ahead and collect some more to get enough to buy another one. So we're gonna buy another one. Now we see that going up by 0.4, which is good. And we check our player count, and we see, again, we have our auto add interval 0.4. Base cost has gone up, and we see that we own 2 auto atom counter things, we're going to call it. So we literally have the entire mechanism for an idle game. Everything that we do from here on is really fluff on top of the game. How many different upgrades do we want? How do we do the upgrades? Are there achievements? Is there a login function? How are we saving the game? How are we loading the game? So the basic idea behind the idle game is you have some type of currency, you have some type of click, some type of action, and some type of update function to update your options. So let's rewrite a little bit of this to give us a little bit more structure to how this is working. This is extremely linear, very, very linear. Everything is attached to this player object. The player object is not layered. It is just one single thing, so our first level of stuff is kind of there. We're not really accurately portraying how the structure is. So let's say if I wanted to add, if we think about the next thing, if I wanted to add another upgrade, let's say second, right? Maybe it's not going to be auto atom. Maybe it's going to be protons. We'll just do protons. Why not? Proton beam, and we're gonna say cost. Proton beam cost is 100. This isn't conducive to what we have down here, because now that what that means, I need to build a whole nother function to say, oh, well, I'm gonna buy a proton beam. I need to check the proton beams and go through and subtract, and then add to the interval, and then subtract from our stuff. Yeah, you do. That sucks. Not gonna lie, that kind of sucks. One way to do it instead is to layer the actual objects, like to layer the actual things that you're trying to buy. So we have this game base interval, which is running on our function here. Now, the fact that you can buy in atom, like an auto atom clicker thing, the fact that you can buy a helping hand to auto increment that is a global thing. The only thing that the player object really needs to store is how many of those do you own, right? That's the idea. How many of those things do you own? The game object should actually store the data behind that thing itself. So if I say something like this and say, we'll say game dot base currency, maybe. We'll say base game dot currency label. So currency label is going to be equal to atom. Okay. We'll make it plural just because everything's going to cost more than one, right? So in our game over here where we have this atom smasher, and I have this atom count, right, with whatever X atoms, what I could be doing something is saying that's our currency label, sure. Now I could be saying something and say game dot upgrades and say I don't know, resources. Yeah, resources is probably better. Resources is going to be equal to another object. So this part's key. We're going to do a second layer of things here. So inside of our resources object, the first thing, the first resource that you're going to have is going to be another object. And that resource is essentially going to be called something. So the name of this is going to be called atom. And we'll call it protons. What do I call it? I don't know. It's really hard to think about this. Currency label. Let's get rid of this for right now. Let's just make this atom. So the current game resource is an atom. Yeah, that's probably fine, right? We'll start there. Then what I can do is say the second resource, if we want to think about the evolution of this, right? The second level, if you want to call it that, click levels, which is kind of like our resources. The first one is going to be just atom, whatever. The second one is going to actually go one step further now. We're going to have a second element inside here, whose name is, what did I say, proton? What was the evolution of it? Protons and neutrons? Positive and negative charges at the Thomson level? Yeah, so let's do it like this. Game dot levels. The Dalton level name is atom. It's just a single thing. There's going to be a 0th element whose name is atom. So if we think about, this is just one object, right? It's the game object and we're assigning something to it. So if we want to look at how this is working, and if I just put game in here, we have this object called levels, Dalton, 0, atom. Does that make sense? So if I wanted to do another one, what's the next one? The next one is Thomson, right? So if I run something like this and say Thomson, the first this needs to be an object, and then secondly, the first thing inside this object is going to be called, do I want to call it proton? We'll call it proton for right now. Proton. And then the second thing inside this object is going to be called, I don't really want to call it electron. No, we'll just call it, yeah, we'll call it electron. Electron. So now if we look at, let's look at this object again. So if I say game, boom. Again, we still have that base interval of 1,000. This level is Dalton and Thomson. So Thomson, or level 0, has atom, right? And then Thomson has two things, 0 and 1, proton and electron. So we see that the structure, right, of how the atom is essentially evolving is increasing. So at the Dalton stage, we have one thing of base currency. So what that means is when we load a level, we want to actually build a load function that's going to build our canvas for us on the actual screen itself. So let's go ahead and finish up our atomic structure. Next is Rutherford, understanding that there's a nucleus. So we'll just copy this, boom. Rutherford, we're going to do proton, electron, yeah. And we'll just add another one. What do I want to call this? So we have atoms, we're going to break those down into protons and neutrons. Actually, we'll say positive and negative charges. Trying to think of the right way to understand the nucleus. Actually, you know what we can probably do? I'm thinking real quick here. Let's do this. Let's switch it up a little bit. Resources. How do you spell resources? R-E-S-O resources. Yeah. Let's actually switch this up just a little bit. Instead, what I want to do is I am I don't want to do it like that. Let's actually do it like this. We're gonna say proton, neutron, electron. Yeah, let's actually do resources, just the basic building blocks like that, and then we can actually just use the Rutherford guys for some other stuff. Okay, cool. So again, when we load the game, there's no load function, so this data is not being saved anywhere. So what we can do on the resource side is we're gonna actually just build this object. So the proton, right? So it's gonna have a label. Actually, I don't need this. It's gonna have a label. The label is literally going to be proton. Boom. We'll actually do a suffix. Just do an S. Do I need proton, neutrons, electrons? No, we automatically know it's going to have a label, so that's fine. So we have the label, which is good. We also need to do our base cost here. So we'll say base cost. Or say there's no cost on these because this is the current counts. Sorry, we don't need anything. We just need protons, neutrons, and electrons. Yeah. So that's it. So label proton, which is cool. So we also need a label here for neutron. Let's toss another one here for label electron. So we're also going to add. So we're going to say our counts, current count. Do I want to do counts in the resources? Yeah, why not? Current count is 0. So we'll add that for everything, which is good. So now I can go over here, check our game object out, double check. We have resources, electrons, protons, and neutrons. It's in alphabetical order because it's an object and it's not quoted, so that's what that means. So we're good here. So what we can actually do is we can build out our UI here to say, hey, I'm gonna be able to click all 3 of these resources and do stuff with them. So we can actually kind of work with that. So let's go ahead and copy this out. So it's 2, 3. So we're gonna say get proton, get neutron, get electron, apparently, electron. So we're gonna say again, proton, neutron, electron. Yay. So this is the counters, right? This is the actual things that we want. So we'll say proton count, neutron count, electron count. All right, cool. So right now the game's not doing anything because there's no logic in here anymore. So we have this get proton, neutron, electron. The update function is running. We have this game object that's working, but nothing's happening quite yet, right? Because we're not actually doing anything with these. So let's go ahead and make sure we get that stuff working. So on update, this function's running no matter what, right? That's already happening. So what we need to do, we need to run 2 things. We need to add our click actions for our buying of our resources, and these are literally going to be just increments. These are literally going to be, I click it, I get one of the things. I can buy protons, so I can click on protons, I can click on neutron, I can click on electron, and I'm just going to get one of all of those things. So it's literally going to be a very simple increment this thing. So let's go ahead and work on those. We can get rid of all of this for right now. And we can actually go ahead and get rid of all of that. So again, it's all about like the iterative design, right? Like it's nice to plan and it's nice to kind of have everything going, but we don't always get that luxury, so we can't always do that. So one of the things we want to do is when we click on these, this get proton, get neutron, get electron, it's going to do the same thing, right? I can probably build one function to do the same thing. So if I built one function, and let's just say particle in this case, it's going to be equal to a proton. Particle in this case is a neutron. And we'll say particle here is an electron. I know that's a lot, but the reason I'm doing that is because now over here, what I can do instead is say class get particle instead of using IDs. And now in my game function, what I can do here is say get particle dot click. Boom. This dot attribute particle. So I have the particle now. I'm getting the variable from that. So now what I can do is literally just say game dot resources of particle dot current count plus plus. So let's just run this real quick. So if I do game, let's run it here. Boom, if I hit game, I see resources electron 0. So let's click electron a few times. Let's hit game again. Boom, resources, electron, current count 6. So we have our we have this working. So let's just grab a couple of those real fast. Bubbles, what is up? Thanks for joining the stream. So we have our current count 3 for neutrons and our current count 2 for protons. So it's actually working really well, which is nice. So it's fairly straightforward. And I was able to do it in one function. So that is kind of the iterative process that we kind of want to think about when we play this. When we actually build this is we're doing this idea of let's code it to make it work to understand an idea. And then we can just make it better over time. So in this case, we built 3 buttons. And even then, these can probably be dynamic too, right? So one of the things we can probably do is a setup function to actually build this dynamically. So let's say let's just do this as an example. So if I say div class, we'll just call it contain, what do I want to call this? Buttons. I'll just call it buttons for right now. So what I could do is on start, like, hey, we're going to actually run a setup function. I could say something along the lines of game.resources each. No, I can't do it like that. I need to do a... Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it like that. So what I could do is do something like this and say, hang on. Making sure I get my syntax right for looping through my object. Yeah, so I could actually do something like this and say a jQuery each, and say game.resources. Man, I cannot spell that word for some reason. S-O-U-R-C-S. There you go. Resources, key value. So let's just do a quick console log. Console log key. Boom. So let's just refresh. So proton, neutron, electron. So we have that key actually running through, which is cool. So now what I actually could do something is, again, this is a setup function, right? So this is going to be a one-time thing. So let's go ahead and build this little function here. We'll just do it here for starters. So I'm going to say, hey, take that buttons class thing, whatever it might be. Let's go ahead and append. We're going to append some code. Now, again, this is not an accurate way of doing this, but this is just an example of saying, like, hey, we can do something like this. So now I actually am just literally shoving random buttons into the screen. And these are actually going to do something, right? These actually will do something because we're using that get particle class proton. So if I again check my game object in my proton resources, I see a bunch of these. So no matter which one of these I click, it's actually going to be doing that. So the entire game could be set up in the JavaScript side of things, right? You don't have to build the DOM. You don't have to build it all here. You could do it dynamically. I'm fine with doing it here, like pre-rendered. Some people may not be. Maybe someone wants to be able to build this game and just edit the JavaScript file, and the game renders all by itself. So in this case, we don't need this, but that is an example of what you can do. So one of the things next, I think, on the roadmap for this, plug my watch in, it's dying. One of the next things we can probably do is get our label. Let's get our labels up and running. So yeah, we're gonna click. We're doing this, which is fine. We're not fixing the label though, right? So one of the things we need to do is actually get the span to update. So let's actually just see if we can get away with doing it like this. So we're gonna say this. Can I say? I think I can. Yeah, I can I? Oh, nice, I can do it like that. I didn't think I could do it like that. All right, so what I can do is actually say something, assuming, yeah, I can do it like that. So what I can do is actually say, where's my thing? I could say this dot find. Let's do a span, and we'll say text is going to be equal to game.particle current count plus space plus particle label plus, kind of just want to do it as, yeah, we'll just do it like that. All right, so if I click this, nothing happens. Why is nothing happening? This dot find span, da, 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 da. Is it actually running? Resources, electrons. Yeah, that's running. Okay, so it's just this is not working properly. So probably what I want to do, oh, I want to do it like this. I want to say like this. Nope. Is it reverse? Nope. Do I not have them as spans? No, I have them as spans. Find it. So basically what I want to say is I want to find the span that comes directly after the button. Right. Doing a bit of Googling. Oh, I guess I could do it like that. So, and that's the other thing with JavaScript and jQuery. There's a lot of different ways to kind of do things. So, suppose that I can say next span like this. There we go. Yeah. So this is what I was talking about, that whole S thing. So singularity, yeah, whatever. This is fine. So this is running, which is good. So the other thing we need this to actually also do is if I'm automating the way to collect these, like my little upgrade things. My update function needs to be able to get these display values. So one of the things that might be useful is to kind of update values in its own little function. So let's think about how we do that now. So one of the things I want to do is probably just say, instead of saying labels, right, we'll actually just do something like this. We'll say count like this. Yeah. That way, if it's plural or not, doesn't matter. So one of the things we want to do is probably in our update function, this is where our labels are actually going to be displayed on top of what this is doing. So again, we want to update values. So this really only comes into play when we start automating this stuff. So you might ask, okay, well, what's the next thing? How do I automate that? Well, I need to be able to buy something, right, with our currency. So something that I might say is something like, if I wanted to buy an atom smasher, right? Let's just do one example. If I wanted to buy the base thing of an atom smasher, it might cost me 10 of each of those things, right? Or if I want to buy a proton pack, maybe a proton pack's the first thing I want to buy. We're gonna buy a proton pack, and it's gonna cost me whatever. We need to understand, like, what's the upgrade path. You know, where's that gonna go? How is that gonna work? So to me, I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to do this in like layers. So part of me wants to say something along the lines of, we're collecting these resources, we're collecting these particles. I need to build facilities, like I need to buy different level facilities. And those facilities allow for little things. Like if I buy a facility, the facility might have a max of 2 spots for a smasher. So then I can buy a smasher, and then I can assign that smasher to gather protons, neutrons, or electrons. While at the same time, that smasher is consuming that specific thing of the particle, and it might be random to say, oh, there's a 1% chance that it's not going to find anything, and so you actually just lose something on that cycle. So let's think about the different facilities you might want to buy. So like these are literally going to be just crap little tiny shed type things. So if I say game dot facilities, I should not pick words that I'm going to have a hard time spelling. So maybe the shack, right? Maybe the shack is going to be the first thing. So we're going to have this shack. The base cost of the shack is going to be 10. 10 what, right, is the next question. Maybe it needs to be a combination of things, right? For right now, I'm just going to just do 1 unit and say the shack's going to cost me 10. Doesn't matter what, 10 anything. If I say buy 10, it's going to say, oh, 10 protons, or whatever. We'll assume everything here is protons, or atoms even. You know, maybe that's the idea. I need to take these. Ooh, that's a really interesting idea. Oh man, that's like making my brain go nuts right now. So I'm building these protons, neutrons, and electrons, which are the fundamental building blocks of basic particles. Technically not, but for the game it is. Maybe I could use that stuff to combine them into atoms, and then atoms turns into my actual currency. Yeah. I kind of like that. Let's do that. So the currency is going to be all atoms. So we have this shack, which is a base cost of 10, which is fine. The other thing we might want to do, let's do a shed next. Actually, instead of a shack, let's just do a, yeah, whatever. Shack, barn, base cost of 20, atoms, whatever. So we still need to get our currency set up. So we're gonna say game dot currency atoms. We'll say a current count 0. Boom. Cool. And if you guys have ideas for how this should work, please tell me. I would love to hear them. So now we have this happening. What should be the mechanism for building atoms? How should that work? I don't know what the mechanism should be for building atoms. Like, should the upgrades be like, oh, well, I need to buy hydrogen, and hydrogen's gonna cost me 1 proton, 1 neutron, and 1 electron, you know, like whatever the actual atomic composition is. But then what do I do with that hydrogen? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what's the upgrade path. See, I had this idea of using facilities. So if I bought facilities, these facilities could allow for generations of things. I thought like atom smashers, and then I can assign those atom smashers to do something. like to auto smash for protons, neutrons, or electrons with a small percentage of not being able to. Not sure if that's gonna work though. I don't know. That's a hard one. All right, so let's just do it like this. I'm gonna get rid of that for right now. So let's do our facilities. Shacks, base cost 10, 20, whatever. So yeah, let's just start there. So what I want to do, so this is gonna be our little, let's do a little section here. So we'll do a horizontal rule. Okay, we'll do a quick little heading. So H2, we'll just call this get stuff. Cool. So then we'll do another section. Buy stuff. So freaking linear about this. Ridiculous. All right, so let's just do, let's get our facilities here. So let's build our little div. I want this div to be built. I mean, it doesn't have to be built dynamically. It could be built. It could be built. Yeah, we can just do it. We can just do it actually like static. Let's do it static right now. Just gonna copy this stuff. Boom. So we're gonna say facility. It's not how you spell facility. Facility. Boom. This is gonna be our shed. Get facility. By shed. It's called by facility. Cool. So what's I gonna say? Facility count, shed count. This doesn't matter actually. That doesn't actually matter. All right, yeah. So that actually doesn't matter. The reason because it's the next. It's the jQuery function is doing just find the next span in something, so that's fine with me. All right, cool. So one of the things we can do from there. So we have our by shed, and we also want, what's the next one that I have? Barn? Is barn really the thing I want? This should be shed. What's the evolution? Where do you go? From a shed to a barn? That doesn't really make sense. Basement maybe? Garage? Let's say garage. So we have our by shed. We have our garage, by facility, by garage. Cool. So now what we can do is build a little function for by facility. Boom. Facility, this dot attribute facility. So now we're going to say game dot facilities of facility current count 0. Boom. Cool. We don't really need this, you know? I mean, we can, but we don't really need a player object. We can just do game, and we'll just do player name. We can just put it all in one. We'll just put it all in one. Why not? Okay, cool. So that's that. So game facilities, boom, game facilities, current count. So again, this isn't, we're not doing any checking. We need to make sure that we have enough of the resources to do it to start. So if we ran this real quick and we wanted to buy a shed, we could. It's not going to do anything right now. But we have the ability to buy a shed. So let's actually get our little notify CD in here. So we're gonna go ahead and copy our little notify, which I love this little library. It's a beautiful little library. It's just basically notify. It's a quick little fancy jQuery notification system. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. So before we increment this, right, the first thing we need to check is make sure that we have all the resources necessary for this. So when we buy a facility, doesn't matter which one it is, we need to make sure that we have the proper cost, price available to us. So we might want to say something like cost, and we're going to turn this into an object. And this object might be comprised of proton 5, neutron 2, electron 1, whatever the reason might be. So let's just copy this cost object over here, and we'll just say this is 10, 10, and 5 for whatever reason. Yeah, sure. Cool. So now again, we're not checking it yet, so we still need to do the check. So we need to check the cost to make sure that we have enough resources to do it. So the way to do that is we're going to say, we're going to basically do an if. We're going to do a quick little if check. So what we need to know first off is if our current count of all of these is less than the facilities check, which is going to be a little bit of a pain, but it is what it is. So we're going to say game.resources.proton current count is less than or actually greater than or equal to game facilities facility cost proton. Yeah, right? Okay. Let's just start with this one. Else notify not enough particles. The error is the class parameter you give to it. So if I run this, not enough particles, let's just add enough here. It'll go away by a shed. So cool, we have that. We're not decrementing our proton count yet, so we need to actually decrement our proton counts. So yes, we're gonna add it. Then we're going to say proton current count minus equals the game facilities proton count. Boom. So that'll actually decrement. And we basically need to duplicate this 3 times. So that's going to be for neutrons, that's going to be for electrons. Neutron current count is greater than the neutron cost, and the electron apparently. And the electron current count is going to be greater than the electron cost. And if it is, we're going to go ahead and issue the buy. Then we're going to decrement. Boom, so that should work now. So if I run this, I cannot buy a shed because I do not have enough particles. So if I buy 5, I cannot buy a shed because I still didn't have enough particles. More than 2, cannot buy a shed, cool. Buy some electrons. So we should see this turn from, it should go from 654 to 133, it looks like. Buy shed. Oh, and the value's not updating. Yeah, so that's right. So that actually works properly. I just need the values are not actually updating. That is because this function is not updating my values, so I need to actually have it do that. So what I need to do is say for each particle, go update the current count. For each particle, go the current count, right? Yeah. So we need to actually do that. So let's get rid of this. Boom, let's get rid of this. First thing we need to do is update our resources. So game.resources as, let's say, can I just do it? Why I always forget the syntax on that. It's really annoying. Okay. Actually, I shouldn't be updating the resources. What I should be doing is looping through each of the get particle buttons. Yeah, I should be doing it like this, because then I should do something like this. And then do this. Cool. So every second that update's cool. So I can now go buy a bunch of this stuff, buy a bunch of this stuff, buy a bunch of this stuff, buy a shed, and then we see that decrement, which is good. Buy a couple more sheds, still can't because I don't have enough particles. Excuse me. So the next thing I want to do is I also want to force an update. So yeah, when I do that, that's fine, but I also want to actually force an update on that. That way when I have enough, I can just buy one directly and it forces the increment down, which is good. So there's not like a second delay or anything for that, which is fine in this case. We could statically put the text in there, but this is actually fine for right now. So yeah, that's that. So we have the ability to buy, we could actually buy garages too. So we need 10, 10, and 5, it looks like. So 10, 10, and 5, buy a garage. We see that decrement properly. So the thing that's not happening is the auto increment of the proton, neutrons, electrons. What are we actually going to do with our shed and garages? So I think I'm going to leave that for the next segment, which will probably be later tonight. Maybe tomorrow evening. Probably tomorrow evening. But yeah, so that's... We're not using player anywhere, which is good, so that's cool. So that's kind of like the first idea behind this. If you guys have any suggestions on where you want the objective of this to be, I want to do a save mechanism, obviously. I want to be able to log in. So I'm also going to build a PHP API to make all this action kind of happening on the back end. I don't want the game to be 100% front end with JavaScript, mainly because you can just set your proton count whatever you want, for example. So like if I say game.resource, so if I say game.resources, no, come on. Current count is equal to 100,000, right? Now, boom, look, I have a crap ton of protons now. I don't want to be able to do that. So we're gonna play a little bit more with that later. So yeah, we'll pick this up later. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, we'll see. But feel free to let me know what you think and let me know where you want to go from here.